kids very often will complain that they have a lot of stomach aches. And so the first thing is, what's going on at school? Who's bullying you? You don't want to go to school or whatever. Or they may have earaches, and we can't track it. You know, they go to the pediatrician, they don't see fluid in the ears or anything else like that. Very often these problems are also related to the swallow because they are air swallowing. Okay? And so it builds up in their stomach, they're very burpy, gassy, or it just builds up and feels really miserable. In the case of the ear, in young children, the air that they're swallowing is going up into the eustachian tube and actually creating pressure from the inside out. But you can't see air, and therefore it looks like what's wrong. There can't be anything wrong with you, and so it's kind of this little vicious cycle. So this is a scenario that is not just related to children who have Down syndrome, okay? What I need you to understand is very often when people talk about this population, they say, oh, they have hard palates, they have these fat, flaccid tongues, that kind of thing. That is not a characteristic of the syndrome. It is a byproduct of the syndrome, okay? Because, like I said, I see these same attributes in many populations, as well as, like I said, normal individuals who were correcting swallows because of orthodontic reasons. So the reason you're going to see this in this particular population is because they're low tone. Okay? All right, so the bottom line here is, I kind of call it, you're kind of droopy, okay? You're not just droopy from the neck down. It also goes from the neck up as well. So if you don't have muscle strength and power here, it's not going to occur in the mouth either, okay? Now, you look at the mouth and it looks like, well, you know, what do you have there? You've got some lips, you've got some teeth, you've got a tongue. How complicated can this be? It's a very complicated part of the body. It's the most complicated part of the body. In order for this mouth to function properly, you need 7 systems coming together. And everything in the mouth is fine motor. It is more fine motor than what we call fine motor with our hands. All right, so let's look at that briefly for a minute. And I'm giving you all this explanation before I give you some things you can do with your children, because if you understand it, the importance and significance becomes that more important and significant. And I really want you to recognize that, because none of us want that child that we remember seeing, or the stereotypical child that everybody thinks your child is going to be, all right? All right, the fat, flaccid tongue that hangs out with the droopy face and the low tone look, okay? The poorly articulated speech, okay? That does not have to be your child. It should not be your child, okay? All right, so what are these systems that have to work here? Well, the first one that you need in the mouth is a good tactile system, okay? Tactile is touch, right? Okay, so if we have good oral awareness in the mouth, tactile awareness, we can find that sesame seed that's caught in our teeth, right? Okay. If we have good tactile awareness in our mouth, then we know if our tip of our tongue is touching the ridge behind our front teeth to make that T sound, or our lips are touching to make that M sound. Okay? So you need tactile, all right? Where do you get tactile? Out here. Okay? What you're going to soon recognize is what goes on in your body goes on in your mouth, okay? So, for example, if I don't like mushy squishy in my hands, hey, Mom and Dad, I'm not eating yogurt, I'm not eating slimy stuff, because I don't like that. Now, I might not mind mushy squishy, but, for example, if I'm playing with shaving cream, I'm fine. You throw some rice in there, whoa, hey, now I'm not eating casseroles, I'm not eating soups, I'm not eating stews, because you just put mixed texture in my mouth, and I don't like it out here where it's safe. Do you think I'm going to let it go in here? Not happening. So understand, tactile is an important factor here in the mouth. Okay, your second system that comes into play then is motor. Okay? Stuff has to work good, right? You have to get that tongue moving and shifting and doing what it's supposed to do for speech. It's also got to move and shift for eating. Okay, well, where does that come from? The body. Okay? So if your child doesn't cross midline, or they can't move one arm to one side and one arm to the other side, well, their tongue isn't going to go side to side. What's that about? Well, if it doesn't go side to side, I don't lick my lips. Okay, you get the typical little boy shirt sleeve wipe, right? Or the food just stays there. You don't have pocketing. So now you become the old finger digger. Okay? Or you can't shift food from the front of your mouth to your back teeth. That's a biggie. We'll talk about that in a minute, okay? All right, where in the body is that? Well, just what I said. If you don't cross midline here, it's not going to happen in your mouth. Basically, what goes on in your body, the mechanics and the systems that work in your body, as I like to think of it, are the neurological highways that get established in your brain, okay? So you first got to get that going. The mouth being fine motor, those are the bridges that you then put over those highways. So if the highways aren't working, you don't really much going to get bridges to go over them, okay? So there's your lateral for eating. If you're good at midline, bring your hands to midline and working here, now your tongue goes up. Up is speech. So a lot of this stuff is going on here. Okay, so we have, so now you have your tactile, you have your motor. Your third system is what we call proprioceptive system. Your proprioceptive system is what tells you where you are in space. It is the feedback that you get from the joints of your body. All right? Your brain is registering right now that you're sitting because it's getting feedback from your hips, the pressure against your hips, and your knees are bent, and that registers, hey, I'm in a seated position, okay? Your proprioceptive feedback for the mouth comes from your jaw joint. If you chew back there, you can figure out all kinds of things it can do and how well it can regulate itself. Well, if I can regulate this jaw properly, I can bite a hoagie. But I'm not going to go like this to eat a wafer, right? Okay? Same idea if I'm talking speech. If I know how to regulate this and I go to the doctor, I can open up and go, ah. But I also know when it's closed for okay, jaw joint. So that's your proprioceptive feedback. Your fourth system that comes into play now is respiration, breathing. All right, you got to breathe when you eat, you got to breathe when you talk. All right, if you can nasal breathe, your eating is going to be a lot easier. You'll be able to chew longer, okay? Deal with a larger bite of food in your mouth. If you can regulate your breath support, you can put out a longer utterance. That's 4. 5 is now vision. Vision for eating is pretty basic. If you can see it, you can find it, you can get it to your mouth. All right, we know blind people eat. They just have a harder time with it because they don't have that ability to just look at it and bring it to the mouth. All right, so vision for eating is pretty simple. Vision for speech, however, has 2 components. The first one is vision for learning speech. Okay, so if I cover my mouth and I go, you don't know if I did F or the soft TH sound. If I take my hand away and go, you now know I did the F sound. So early on for learning speech, vision becomes very, very important. We want to be good watchers. See how, I heard that sound. How did you make that? Because a lot of them you can see. A lot of them you can't, but a lot of them you can. And so you want to be able to see it. Okay? There's another level of vision, though, that goes along with speech. It's what I call your mind's eye. Okay, when you've had speech, and you've used speech a lot, over and over and over, your brain starts to get a map of how your mouth shapes and looks to produce the different aspects of speech. That's why when your ears are plugged, you may not hear other people well, but you can talk to them and know you're not a blithering idiot, because you have this mental knowledge of how your mouth shapes and forms to be able to put the words out. Okay? So that's vision. That's 5 system. Now your 6th system is where eating and speech kind of part ways. For eating, you need olfactory. You need smell. If you can't smell it, it doesn't taste very good. Right? Look, what you need for speech is hearing. Okay? Again, hearing impaired people do learn to talk. It's just harder. And depending on the type of hearing impairment, it can or it may not sound that good. Okay? I was just having this discussion with a child that I evaluated this morning, and this child is a cochlear implant child, and that's what's really exciting, because those kids now, when they learn speech, they sound like everybody else. They don't have that deadened sound that we attributed to deaf speech, and that's really terrific. Okay? So hearing is obviously an important component. Your 7th system now becomes cognition. Cognition for eating is recognizing what's food and what's not food. I'm going to put the marshmallow in my mouth. I'm not going to put the rock in my mouth.